What if I told you a young woman was murdered by her own mother, and the body stayed hidden for 3 years while the killer lived a life of, well, extraordinary luxury and influence in Mumbai's elite circles?
It really does sound like a premise ripped straight from the darkest psychological thriller. But this is the genuine, horrifying truth at the core of the Sheena Bora case.
It's unbelievable.
And this wasn't, a spontaneous crime of passion. The evidence points to a cold, calculated, and secretive act of betrayal. And that was followed by this elaborate, just chilling deception that went on for years.
And the deception, for me, that is the most sinister part. The mother, the alleged killer, she convinced everyone, friends, media colleagues, high society associates, that her daughter hadn't been murdered.
No, she just moved.
She simply moved abroad to the USA, and she maintained this monstrous, grotesque lie for 3 long years. She was communicating with the outside world using fake emails sent specifically in her daughter's name. That level of control is just breathtaking.
It is the ultimate mask of normalcy over absolute corruption. For those 3 years, the person accused of the crime, Indrani Mukerjea, was a high-profile media executive. She was attending events, leading companies, moving freely through society.
While
the remains of her daughter lay unidentified, rotting in a remote forest.
we have to pause and remember the victim here. Sheena Bora. She was born on February 11th, 1987. She was just 24 years old when her life was allegedly cut short on April 24, 2012.
Just 24.
She was ambitious. She had dreams of building a media career in Mumbai, which is a world her own mother completely dominated. And it was her mother who was accused of committing filicide, the killing of one's own child. It's a betrayal that seems, truly impossible to process.
This story didn't just uncover a murder. It excavated this deep fissure in the reality of an entire high society family. This case exposed a web of lies, secret identities, forbidden relationships, and a family structure so utterly twisted it shocked the entire nation of India.
The final, shocking truth.
A woman who called her daughter her sister.
Welcome to Whispers of Crime. Our mission in this deep dive is to trace the shocking trajectory of this case. And we're not here just for the sensational details. We're here to give you the most informed, comprehensive view of the evidence, the motives, and the unprecedented judicial delays that have defined this story.
The complexity here is staggering. It involves global media titans, Indrani and Peter Mukerjea, and it's all intertwined with financial corruption, massive corporate scandals, and these intense relational conflicts that just spilled over into alleged murder.
So what's our mission today? Where do we take the listener?
We will trace Sheena's hidden life, the forbidden romance that seems to have broken the facade, the day of the homicide, that stunning 3-year cover-up, and then the random arrest that brought the entire high society empire crashing down in 2015.
And it all culminates in a legal battle that is still somehow unfolding today, 13 years later.
It is a profound study in betrayal and the slow, arduous march toward justice. If you're looking for the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed on the sensational and tragic case, you are absolutely in the right place.
Subscribe to Whispers of Crime on YouTube and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker to catch every deep dive we release. Like, comment, and share. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear Sheena's story.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's begin at the very root of the deception. I think we have to. It's the foundational lie surrounding Sheena's own identity. Before she was a tragic victim, she was living this lie that was completely orchestrated by her mother.
Right. So Sheena Bora, who was actually born Pori Bora.
Pori Bora. I never knew that was her birth name.
Yeah. She spent her crucial early years in Guwahati, Assam. So very far removed from the glitz and glamour of Mumbai. She was raised by her maternal grandparents.
But this whole setup, this was the foundation for the lie.
Exactly. This setup was the foundation of the great family lie that would, define her entire life. By the time she moved to Mumbai in 2006, the deception that she was Indrani's younger sister, it was fully established, it was operational.
And she moved to Mumbai for her education. She went to the prestigious St. Xavier's College from 2006 to 2009, and then she transitioned into a corporate life, working as an assistant manager at Mumbai Metro One. She was building this normal professional existence.
A completely normal life on the surface.
But she was forced to live under this false pretense established by the very person who gave her life.
The great family lie, as it's been called, is truly the most toxic element of this entire saga. Indrani introduced Sheena and her brother Mikhail, not as her biological children, but as her younger sister and brother.
Why? I mean, what was the thinking there?
Well, this allowed Indrani to present herself in high society as this ambitious executive who was, unfettered by early motherhood. She could build this new identity.
That is where the story just moves from typical family tension into genuine emotional horror. But we have to talk about the recent claims from Indrani's memoir, Unbroken. It was published in 2023, and in it, she sort of attempts to rewrite the motive for this identity crisis.
She does. She suggests the lie was rooted in deep personal trauma.
Us.
Yes, she used the memoir to claim a kind of defense, I suppose, in the court of public opinion. Indrani alleges that Sheena was born from a sexual assault she suffered as a minor at the age of 14 and again at 16, allegedly by her own father.
Her father, not her stepfather.
She claimed her father. And she said this overwhelming trauma necessitated the sister cover story. She was arguing she was protecting herself from immense shame and social judgment in what was and is a pretty conservative society.
So we have to pause here. I mean, is this memoir claim about her father a reliable account of trauma? Or is this a calculated legal tactic designed to reframe her as a victim right before the final verdict?
That's the million-dollar question.
How could a mother sustain the immense psychological burden of maintaining that facade? The facade that her own child was a sibling, especially within the confines of such a high-profile public family.
The reliability is certainly contested in court. But sociologically, maintaining that level of deception, it speaks to the immense control and compartmentalization Indrani must have achieved over decades. As she climbed the corporate and social ladder, that secret became her currency of power and protection.
So her public identity was everything.
Her public identity as Peter Mukerjea's sophisticated, seemingly childless wife was essential to her ambition. And the investigators later tried to determine if this lifelong secrecy fueled this deep resentment towards Sheena, making her a liability in multiple ways.
And crucially, who else knew the truth? Did Sheena know?
Well, Indrani claims Sheena knew she was her daughter by age 14. She said she was told by a cousin back in Guwahati and that Sheena was complicit in maintaining the lie.
She was complicit. So she's saying Sheena was in on it.
Exactly. Indrani maintained in court that Sheena actively participated in the deception. She cited forms like those Sheena filled out for a job at Reliance where she listed her grandmother as her immediate family. That supports the sister narrative.
So that just introduces immediate contradictions. Who knew, what, and when? It creates this highly unstable foundation for the prosecution's entire narrative of motive.
It's a house of cards.
Let's zoom out to the world Indrani built in Mumbai, this media empire built on immense financial power.
Indrani Mukerjea's rise was incredibly rapid. She started a recruitment company, INX Services, in Kolkata in 1996. Eventually, she moved to Mumbai in 2001, and she landed these major clients like Reliance Industries and the massive media conglomerate Star India.
And that professional trajectory led her directly to Peter Mukerjea.
It did.
And Peter Mukerjea wasn't just wealthy. He was a media giant.
Oh, a titan. Peter was a British media tycoon, widely known for his tenure as the former CEO of Star India. That made him a colossal, almost untouchable figure in Indian media circles.
Wow.
And so together, in December 2006, Peter and Indrani co-founded the INX Group. This encompassed INX Media and INX News. Indrani was the chairperson, and Peter served as chairman and chief strategy officer.
They were the definition of a power couple.
Absolutely. In the Bombay circuit, they were it, mixing finance, media ownership, and celebrity.
Okay, so now imagine the fragility of Indrani's world when Sheena enters the scene. Not just as a sister, but as a romantic interest for Peter's son from a previous marriage, Rahul Mukerjea.
This forbidden romance between Sheena and Rahul, who were, because of their parents' marriage, step-siblings, that became the flashpoint.
So they were technically step-siblings.
Yes. And Rahul was described as, laid back, but his relationship with Sheena was serious. It was getting very serious. And it directly threatened the delicate, highly controlled structure of the Mukerjea family.
And crucially, it threatened to expose the decades-long secret of Sheena's true identity.
Precisely.
So Indrani's strong disapproval, it wasn't just about protecting family honor, was it? If Sheena married Rahul, she would become officially and permanently integrated into the Mukerjea family structure. The secret would become impossible to contain. It would expose Indrani's vulnerable past.
That is the core analysis. The relational rage wasn't just about control, it was existential for her. If the truth came out, it wouldn't just be an embarrassing family scandal. It would undermine Indrani's carefully constructed image and potentially impact her substantial financial dealings, which, as we're about to discuss, were far more precarious than they appeared.
So the relationship continues, and Sheena, maybe seeking leverage or just validation, eventually reveals the truth to Peter. She tells him she is Indrani's daughter, not her sister.
Yes, and this is another point of contention. Peter later claimed that Indrani only confirmed this shocking revelation after she was arrested in 2015. He maintained he was unaware of the truth before then.
But how is that possible? How could the mother have concealed this from her husband for so long, living in the same house?
It creates a massive hole in the timeline of awareness. It's a key question the investigators had.
This inconsistency about who knew the secret and when brings us directly to motive. The investigators, who were led by the Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, they quickly moved past just relational outrage. They started looking at the massive financial stakes involved in the Mukerjea empire.
Yes, the investigation identified three compounding motives. First, you have the intense relational rage over this forbidden romance.
Okay.
Second, there was a property dispute, allegedly worth around 3 crore rupees, which is a small fortune. But the third motive was the explosive financial angle, tied directly to their massive corporate venture, INX Media.
Okay, let's establish the sheer scale of this corporate fraud, because this is where the murder motive connects to high-level finance.
The CBI charged that Peter and Indrani Mukerjea had allegedly siphoned off a staggering 275.5 crore rupees.
275 crore, how much is that?
That's roughly 2.75 billion rupees, or tens of millions of US dollars. This money was allegedly laundered via Mauritius into 8 subsidiary companies between 2007 and 2008.
Okay, and what made Sheena a specific financial liability in this massive structure? Why her?
The crucial link, the investigative theory goes, is that a portion of these laundered funds was potentially parked in an offshore bank account. And that account was opened in Sheena Bora's name.
Wow. Okay, so if Sheena was the holder of, or had access to, an account containing laundered corporate funds, her existence, especially if she was planning to marry into the family and demanding her independence.
It made her a massive, uncontrollable threat to their entire fortune.
It wasn't just a threat of exposure, it was a threat of losing financial control.
Precisely. The motive becomes less about family honor and entirely about securing a corporate fortune. If Sheena, who was already willing to expose this sister lie, decided to turn against them about the money, the consequences for the Mukerjeas would have been devastating. It could lead to major criminal charges completely separate from the murder.
So this complex layering of personal rage combined with financial desperation, that provides the darkest possible rationale for the alleged filicide.
It's the perfect storm of motives.
The stage is set. A high-stakes world, a deeply fragile secret, and a huge corporate fortune potentially resting on Sheena's silence. This brings us directly to the day the murder allegedly took place, April 24, 2012.
Court records and the subsequent confessions, they detail a clear, chilling plan. Sheena, who was working at Mumbai Metro 1, took leave from her job that day.
So she had a scheduled commitment. She wasn't just randomly not at work.
Correct. It indicates a pre-planned meeting.
And she was lured into meeting Indrani.
Yes. Sheena was drawn to meet Indrani in Bandra, which is a central location in Mumbai. This was not a chance encounter. It was a premeditated meeting set up by her mother. The prosecution's case relies entirely on the premise that this was a carefully constructed conspiracy.
And that conspiracy allegedly involved more than just Indrani.
According to the charges and confessions, the actual physical killing involved Indrani Mukerjea, her ex-husband Sanjeev Khanna, and her trusted driver, Shyamvar Rai.
Wait, her ex-husband? I missed that before. He was involved too.
Yes, her ex-husband. That's how deep the conspiracy allegedly went. It suggests this horrific level of planning, spanning across complex relational lines roping in a former spouse and a subordinate employee to carry out the act.
And the method of death was terrifyingly violent and personal.
The prosecution alleged that Sheena was first rendered incapacitated, she was drugged, and then strangled inside the car. Strangling is an intimate, close-quarters method. It really underscores the horrific nature of a crime allegedly committed by her own mother.
And the state of the body later.
The decomposed state of the body later found was consistent with the timeline and this method.
The disposal occurred the very next day, April 25, 2012. The perpetrators allegedly burned the body to hide identification and then dumped the remains in the remote Raigad forest in Raigad district.
And this is a critical point that exposes the systemic failures of the initial investigation. A decomposed body was discovered by local police in Raigad on May 23, 2012.
So less than a month after the murder.
Less than 1 month. But here is the chilling failure. The remains stayed unidentified. There was no connection made back to any missing persons reports or, the high-profile Mukerjea family in Mumbai.
So for 3 years, Indrani Mukerjea just returned to her elite, high society life in Mumbai, attending parties, running media companies, knowing her daughter's body lay unidentified in a forest 100 kilometers away. The lack of consequences for those 3 years is profoundly sinister.
It demonstrates the effective shield that status can provide and the sheer audacity of her immediate cover-up. Indrani had achieved complete narrative control. She convinced everyone that Sheena had simply disappeared abroad.
That control is what needs to be dissected next. How did she make people believe Sheena was still alive for so long?
The deception was relentless, and it utilized technology to create a sort of ghost identity. Indrani sent fake emails from Sheena's account to family members and associates.
And she had to make sure the most persistent threat to her cover-up, Rahul Mukerjea, was neutralized.
Absolutely. He was the one trying to file missing person reports. He was the only one consistently concerned, trying desperately to find Sheena.
What happened with those reports?
Well, Indrani later claimed in her defense that phone tapes showed her offering to go with him to the police station, but he failed to show up. It's a minor point, but it was designed to show Rahul's lack of follow-through.
A way to shift blame.
Exactly. Regardless, to silence his searching, a fake breakup SMS was sent to Rahul Mukerjea's phone. It explicitly ended their relationship and reinforced the narrative that Sheena was simply cutting ties.
And Indrani's central lie was unwavering. Sheena had gone to the USA for higher studies and simply refused to communicate with her family.
And it was a plausible lie, for an ambitious young woman in that environment. People believed it.
But there is highly controversial evidence related to Rahul that throws the prosecution's precise timeline into chaos.
Yes. The text messages.
You're referring to the intimate text messages that allegedly continued after the murder date. We have to go to detail here.
Okay, so the Directorate of Forensic Science Laboratories, or DFSL, they retrieved these intimate text messages from Rahul Mukerjea's phone. These messages, they were about meeting up, picking her up, ordering food, things like that, allegedly continued for a period of up to 2 weeks after the date the prosecution claims Sheena was murdered, April 24th, 2012.
Wait, if the prosecution's timeline is accurate, Sheena was murdered on the 24th and her body was disposed of on the 27th. So if these intimate communications were happening on the 26th, 27th, and onward for 2 weeks, who was Rahul talking to?
This evidence is a massive piece of ammunition for the defense. It strongly suggests one of two things. Either Indrani was immediately and very effectively impersonating Sheena on the phone for an extended period to maintain the illusion of the breakup.
Whoa.
Or, crucially, the murder and disposal did not occur on April 24, 25, 2012 as charged. This instability in the crucial timeline deeply muddies the water for the CBI's case.
And it's a core reason why the trial has been so protracted.
Absolutely. The fact that the defense can point to a 2-week period of contact after the alleged death fundamentally challenges the entire case narrative. The sheer length of the sustained deception, the fake communications, the complete control over the narrative, it allowed Indrani to continue leveraging her power and fortune entirely unburdened.
It makes the 3-year gap feel like a complete victory for the alleged killer.
It does. It demonstrates how wealth, status, and calculated deceit can allow a person to navigate life seemingly untouched, even after committing a crime of this magnitude.
If you are finding this deep dive as fascinating as I am, please remember to subscribe to Whispers of Crime on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Your support helps us dissect these complex, high-stakes true crime narratives.
Okay, let's get back to the timeline.
For 3 years, the lie held. Indrani and Peter Mukerjea continued their high-profile lives, and Sheena's disappearance just faded into the background. But in August 2015, a random, unrelated traffic stop ripped the cover clean off the entire conspiracy.
The catalyst was entirely dependent on luck. On August 21st, 2015, the driver, Shyamvar Rai, was arrested by the Mumbai police. But he wasn't arrested for murder. No, he was caught for the possession of illegal weapons in an entirely different, unrelated case.
Once he was in police custody, away from the control and influence of his employer,
the truth came pouring out. Rai subsequently confessed everything to the police. He detailed the horrific events of the 2012 murder of Sheena Bora, identifying the location of the body in Raigad, and confirming Indrani's pivotal involvement.
So his confession was the key that unlocked the 3-year-old cold case.
It was everything.
And finally, DNA identification was possible.
Yes. Based on Rai's confession, the unidentified decomposed remains from the Gagoda forest were linked to the case. DNA analysis was conducted, and the femur bone recovered matched Indrani's DNA.
So that definitively confirmed it.
It definitively confirmed that the victim was Sheena Bora, her biological daughter. This simultaneously ended the murder mystery and the decades-long sister lie.
The fallout was immediate and just. Spectacular. It gripped national headlines for weeks.
Oh, for months. Indrani Mukerjea was arrested on August 25, 2015. That was followed swiftly by her ex-husband, Sanjeev Khanna, on August 26.
And given the explosive nature of the accusations involving these high-profile media figures and the systemic corruption it hinted at,
the case was immediately transferred to the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, in September 2015.
And just a couple of months later, Peter Mukerjea, Indrani's then-husband, was arrested on November 19, 2015, for alleged conspiracy in the case. The image of the power couple vanished, replaced by the reality of co-accused in a murder trial.
Once the CBI took over, they charged Indrani and the others under a comprehensive list of Indian Penal Code, or IPC, sections.
Oh, what are the charges?
They included IPC Section 302 for murder, 201 for destruction of evidence, 420 for cheating and forgery, and 120B for criminal conspiracy. The gravity of these charges is extreme.
And the investigative focus then swung back aggressively to the financial motivation, solidifying the theory that the murder was an elimination of a financial liability.
Exactly. The CBI focused on the massive siphoning of that 275.5 crore rupees from INX Group and the alleged parking of funds in Sheena Bora's name.
And this financial thread wasn't new, was it? It had been independently investigated years earlier by the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, or SFIO.
Correct. The SFIO is India's premier agency for detecting and prosecuting complex corporate fraud. Their involvement is a huge sign that this goes way beyond family drama. An SFIO report which was filed as early as April 2013.
So before the murder was even confirmed.
Long before. That report alleged that the sale of INX News to Indie Media in 2009 was a sham transaction.
What does sham transaction mean in this context?
It means the transaction lacked genuine commercial substance and was likely a deliberate mechanism to move money illicitly. The SFIO report alleged this transaction resulted in a wrongful loss of 169 crore rupees to INX Media.
So that report recommended prosecution against Indrani and others for cheating and criminal conspiracy. Years before 2015, there was already an established pattern of severe corporate malfeasance tied directly to the accused.
Yes. The murder case simply connected the dots between financial crime and personal elimination.
And the political fallout resulting from this financial angle was enormous.
It was explosive. While in prison, Indrani became an approver, a state witness, in the related INX Media money laundering case. In her statement, she claimed that she and Peter had met the then finance minister, P. Chidambaram.
A huge name in Indian politics.
A very huge name. And she claimed that a deal was struck where money was allegedly given to his son, Karti Chidambaram, in exchange for crucial Foreign Investment Promotion Board, or FIPB, approval.
That is a staggering claim. It shifts the narrative from a corporate fraud to an alleged high-level political corruption scandal.
And it is crucial to remember, as you said, we are impartially reporting the claims made as part of the public narrative surrounding the case. But Indrani's statement, made as an approver, threw the entire political establishment into turmoil. It further confirmed that the financial motivation was far-reaching and incredibly high stakes.
In the years that followed, as the trial dragged on, Indrani launched this sophisticated public relations counterattack, attempting to manage the narrative from inside the judicial process. This began with her memoir, Unbroken, released in 2023.
The memoir is a calculated PR exercise. By detailing her traumatic past, claiming Sheena was born from sexual assault by her father when Indrani was a minor, she attempts to provide a sympathetic context for the sister lie.
She's reframing the narrative.
She's positioning herself as a victim of her own circumstances and her history. She argued the cover story was a necessary defense mechanism rooted in profound trauma.
This attempts to shift the focus away from the brutal alleged act of filicide, doesn't it?
It is entirely designed to. Furthermore, she used the memoir and public statements to launch the scathing attack on her co-accused, Peter Mukerjea, portraying him as the ultimate betrayer. She claimed she felt very betrayed by Peter, noting her commitment to his family over 21 years.
What specific actions did she allege Peter took to betray her?
She claimed that while she was in crisis, Peter acted selfishly. She specifically cited a financial loss of 70 sets of jewelry and, more significantly, the transfer of 6 crore rupees from her account to Peter's son's accounts.
So she frames Peter not just as a co-conspirator who may have covered up the crime, but as a manipulative, financially motivated husband who capitalized on her legal troubles.
It's a highly sophisticated move in the court of public opinion, the strategy of pivoting from the role of alleged perpetrator to a victim of trauma and spousal misconduct. And it's one she continues to press even as her trial nears its conclusion.
The trial, which formally initiated in 2017, has been defined by its astonishing length, 13 years and counting, and perhaps most critically, a deep foundational controversy over the forensic evidence itself.
Initially, the DNA evidence was the smoking gun. As we mentioned, DNA analysis confirmed that the femur bone recovered from Raigad matched Indrani's DNA. It definitively established Sheena as her biological child and solidified the prosecution's case on identity.
But the defense has turned this crucial evidence into a central point of attack, claiming massive tampering. This is where the case gets truly convoluted.
This is where we need to dive into the technical details. Indrani's defense claims the DNA report was fundamentally compromised. They focus specifically on the raw data, known as the electropherograms.
And those are supposed to be machine printed, right?
Exactly. But the defense dramatically confronted the DNA expert in court, who allegedly admitted to changing specific data points in his own handwriting to ensure the sample matched Indrani's blood.
That is staggering. If the chief scientific evidence connecting the remains to the mother is proven to have handwritten alteration, it instantly destabilizes the entire forensic foundation of the case.
It creates reasonable doubt concerning the integrity of the evidence chain. But the challenges don't end there. There's the gruesome discrepancy involving the skull that is perhaps even more shocking to conceptualize.
The skull contradiction. How does that factor into the defense's strategy?
The initial post-mortem report stated that the doctor used a saw to make a circular cut on the skull to check for brain matter, which is a standard procedure for a highly decomposed body. However, the prosecution later produced an intact full skull in court.
An intact skull.
An intact skull, a fact that was confirmed by subsequent forensics heads.
I have to stop you. How does a skull that was surgically cut open by a saw become intact later in the trial? Is this a case of mistaken identity of the remains or just sheer mishandling of evidence?
This is the defense's primary argument. This massive contradiction is a major pillar of their strategy. They argue that the body found in Raigad in 2012 might not have been Sheena's at all, or that the crucial evidence was swapped or grievously mishandled after recovery.
And if they can successfully argue that the remains are not conclusively Sheena Bora, the entire prosecution case just collapses.
It completely collapses. In an attempt to stabilize this increasingly shaky foundation, the CBI provided a recent update. In July 2024, the CBI informed the court that Sheena's remains have now been found, seeking to solidify the forensic evidence base after years of contention.
Which shows the prosecution knows how crucial and vulnerable this physical evidence remains, 13 years on.
It does.
Despite the gravity of the charges, the accused are no longer in custody. Peter Mukerjea was granted bail in February 2020 after spending more than 4 years behind bars.
And Indrani followed. She secured her freedom from the Supreme Court in May 2022 after spending nearly 7 years as an under trial in judicial custody. 7 years is an extraordinary length of time for a person to be held without a verdict.
What was the specific legal rationale the Supreme Court used to justify bail for an accused in a capital murder case?
The bail was granted primarily due to the unprecedented duration of the trial and the resulting judicial delay. It's a major concern in the Indian legal system. The Supreme Court pointed out the staggering reality at the time of her bail. 185 out of the total 237 witnesses were still pending examination.
That statistic is chilling. Less than 25% of the witnesses had been examined in 7 years.
Correct. The court essentially recognized that Indrani couldn't be held indefinitely under the constitutional right to a speedy trial while the judicial machinery moved at such a sluggish pace. The length of the delay itself became a stronger factor than the gravity of the charges.
So the system's failure to move quickly is what got her out.
In essence, yes, the Supreme Court ruled that the trial would not conclude anytime soon and bail was appropriate. It highlights the enormous strain complex, high-profile cases place on the courts.
Following her release, Indrani launched an aggressive media and public relations campaign, perhaps the most controversial element of which is her insistence that Sheena might still be alive.
The Sheena is alive narrative is a highly effective piece of public relations designed to create doubt. Indrani referenced claims made by a highly reputed lawyer and a police officer who was also imprisoned, who allegedly saw Sheena in Kashmir.
In Kashmir.
In Kashmir. She even successfully prompted the court to receive sealed CCTV footage from an airport related to an alleged sighting.
But the CBI officially refuted this, confirming that Sheena's remains were found and identified.
They did. However, the narrative continued to gain traction, fueled by her massive platform, which culminated in the Netflix documentary released in early 2024.
The Indrani Mukerjea story. Buried Truth. It premiered on February 29, 2024, and it was immediately criticized for seeming to afford the primary accused a massive, unchallenged platform to lead the entire narrative.
Critics argue the documentary attempted to portray Indrani as a victim. It allowed her to continuously interrupt her lawyer's testimony to offer her own revised versions of events. The danger here, often referred to as trial by media, is the potential to prejudice or influence the public and potentially the court.
And the legal system responded directly to this threat, didn't it?
It did. The Bombay High Court mandated that the CBI screen the documentary before its release, which is a highly unusual and direct intervention. They cited serious concerns that the production, relying heavily on Indrani's one-sided memoir, could potentially influence the ongoing trial.
It emphasizes how critically the courts viewed her attempts at narrative control. But even family witnesses are shifting their stories. We saw a major turn in the testimony of Indrani's other daughter, Peter Mukerjea.
Peter Mukerjea is a key, if unstable, family witness. She had previously written a book titled Devil's Daughter.
Right, I remember that.
When she testified in court in September 2025, she provided yet another contradiction to the prosecution's timeline. She claimed Sheena was alive until April 26, 2012, 2 full days after the official murder date. And then, crucially, she formally disowned her own memoir during her testimony.
That is extraordinary. A key witness, the daughter of the accused, contradicts the timeline and disavows her own published account of the tragedy. This instability, this constant shifting of the truth, is the hallmark of this case.
It is the ultimate reflection of the deeply fractured family structure, where truth appears malleable, even among the witnesses closest to the events.
We have to bring the timeline to the present day, November 2025. After 13 long years, the prosecution has finally completed its witness examination.
Yes, 13 years. To expedite the process, the CBI had to actively drop several witnesses whose testimony was deemed repetitive or non-essential. That included high-profile names like Ravina Rajkoli and Peter's first wife, Shabnam Singh. The focus is now on streamlining the final phase.
But to counter the defense's challenges regarding procedural loopholes and tampering, the CBI was allowed to bring in new unlisted witnesses.
Precisely. The court permitted the CBI to examine 4 unlisted jailers. This move was tactical, explicitly intended to confirm the collection of handwriting samples and signatures of the accused, strengthening the procedural evidence after the defense spent years challenging the integrity of the evidence collection.
So after years of arrests, arguments, media scandals, and forensic contradictions, what is the current legal status?
The Supreme Court, recognizing the excessive delay, ordered the trial completion within 1 year as of 2025. This mandate places immense pressure on the court system to reach a conclusion quickly.
What does that mean for the quality of justice? I mean, can a fair verdict be rushed after 13 years of deliberate, often sluggish movement?
That is the critical question hanging over the trial. The defense will argue that speed compromises their ability to present their complex case, especially considering the instability of the forensic evidence. As of today, November 2025, no verdict has been reached.
So all 3 accused.
All 3 accused, Indrani, Peter, and Sanjeev Khanna, remain out on bail, navigating the final phase of a truly unprecedented legal battle.
The story of Sheena Bora is a masterpiece of deception and a profoundly disturbing study of filicide. It's a tragedy defined by betrayal, where a lie held for 3 years, allowing a mother to continue living a life of immense power and glamour while her daughter's body lay unidentified in the forest. Her ambition, the massive financial scandals, and the tangled web of family secrets cast a long, tragic shadow over Sheena's memory.
This case moved from the highest echelons of a corporate media empire to a seemingly endless legal labyrinth. And it all hinges on a mother's darkest secret and the instability of the evidence. The ultimate tension remains. The trial continues, resting on contested forensic evidence, the intact skull, the disputed DNA, and a web of complex motives after 13 years.
And the final question of guilt or innocence, and whether the primary accused is an unrepentant killer or a victim of trauma and judicial overreach.
That remains entirely with the court.
Given the intense, relentless media coverage, the memoir Unbroken, and the Netflix documentary, we are left to ponder. When a true crime case becomes such a public spectacle, and the accused actively engages in controlling the narrative, does the pursuit of that public image ultimately delay or even subvert the achievement of objective legal justice?
That is a profound reflection, especially in an era where the demand for quick, entertaining answers often overwhelms the slow, meticulous demands of legal due process.
That's it for this deep dive into the Sheena Bora case. Subscribe to Whispers of Crime on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Like, comment, and share to help us reach more people who need to hear Sheena's story and understand the complexities of this ongoing, chilling case.